now more than ever having a preventative approach to fungicide planning or to disease control? Why is it important?
It's really important to look at preventative because the majority of the fungicides that we now have on the market don't really have really good eradicant qualities like the old fungicides did 20 years ago. So to be able to use them most effectively, you want to be applying them when the disease is at a high risk of getting the pathogen coming in, and then you keep the greens clean, the golfers are much happier, your job's much easier.
Is that a big change for course managers to adapt to that, or do you think it should be quite straightforward? I've always thought as a course manager, making those changes to your planning can be a bit complicated, and I don't know, how would you go about it?
It's not particularly complicated, it's more that mindset. None of us really want to feel like we're applying a fungicide unnecessarily. And you're always slightly nervous that if you didn't apply the fungicide, would you not have got the disease anyway? In reality, the pathogen's already there. You get, a blip in the summer where you get some lovely weather like this, and you really need that fungicide approach to ensure that everything stays clean all year round, because you want to provide the surfaces that are perfect for the golfers to play on.
I think here's a really good example. Today, we're here at the RAC Club, and you can see that it's kind of ideal weather for disease. It's still warm, fertility probably in the turf's quite high, but it's always that discussion about, do I apply a fungicide or not? And how do greenkeepers go about making that decision, whether they do, whether they don't? What's the kind of processes you think they should go through?
As a greenkeeper, you're the most experienced on your course. You know the susceptibility, you know the grass species, you know the environment. Is it surrounded by trees? Is the golf green in a bowl? If you get a little bit of microdochium, for example, coming in now in conditions that are quite conducive for it, will that be a problem, or could you grow it out? Would a bit of iron help and you can get away with it, or do you really need that fungicide because you don't want to end up going into the end of the summer with a little bit of active disease around that will then cause you a lot of problems in the autumn time?
So I think it's about planning, isn't it? It's about thinking about what's coming in advance and then kind of putting in a strategy to do that. And hopefully, with our talk today, we can kind of help people out and give them a kind of idea about a good way of going about it.
Yeah, and looking at specifically what the fungicidal active ingredients do. How do they get into the plant? Are they systemic? Are they contact? What's the best way of using them? The best timing of application, so that you ensure that you get the best out of every fungicide you apply.
I think one of the issues that comes up is people think that preventative applications are regularly like prophylactic applications, and I think we really need to get people away from just regular applying every month. It's probably not necessary, and it's got to be more strategic. How do you see that, and how do you think that would go?
Prophylactic and preventative aren't interchangeable words. Prophylactic is a calendar-based spray, and it's unnecessary. It'll lead to overuse of product. It potentially can lead to more chance of resistance. Yeah. Whereas preventative spraying is actually understanding your grass. What's the conditions that make it most susceptible? When do you commonly see your disease? It's not going. Keeping a record of your thresholds, planning when pathogens might be active, so that you can then apply the fungicides at the right time, so that we go through proper resistance management, we keep clean greens, and we keep our fungicides effective for as long as possible.
For course managers, what can be quite difficult is there's loads of different active ingredients. They've all got long names that most of us can't even spell. Course managers may find it a bit of a scary process. All these, which ones in which order? Are they contact? Are they preventative? Are they curative, eradicant, translap? It just becomes really difficult. How would you go about sort of like making that process just a bit more simple and straightforward for guys? What do they need to kind of think about?
Have all those active ingredients on a list. STRI, Syngenta, both have got tables with all the active ingredients on it, all the products that they're in, so that you can actually look at it and decide what active ingredient does what, which family it's from, which other products have similar families, so that you're not applying different products but the same active ingredient. So there's a lot of help out there on a lot of different areas to be able to help you make that decision.
Because I think timing's key, isn't it? And you getting the right active on at the right time is the key part to having a successful strategy. So if you had one tip for a course manager or anyone managing turf about disease control, what would it be?
There'll never be one. Generally I work with three. So the three main elements for disease management is number one, organic matter control. It's where all of the pathogens survive within that thatch, within the grass. So by managing the organic matter, you remove the availability of a food source for the pathogen.
And you can get that tested at STRI, so you can have a benchmark. and then you set that, and then you can measure where you are and manage your programs around that. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. So you can look year on year how you're managing to dilute down the organic matter and get it to a minimum, which is, you know, perfect for the grass.
Fantastic. So 2 more.
Number 2 then is moisture management.
Right.
From the point of view of ensuring the grass has enough moisture content to be able to grow, but not with the surface moisture. So where you start to get dews in the autumn time, switching them off, or using wetting agents to manage the dew on the surface, so that you've got, again, a good growing environment for the grass, the best that it can have.
Right.
And then the third one, prevention is better than cure when it comes to diseases. You want to keep clean greens, you want to have happy golfers. It's easier for you to manage if you keep those pathogens at bay, and you, with your expert knowledge on your golf course, will know exactly when those pathogens are going to start to become active.
Yeah, I think we saw this year that maybe slightly later into the autumn, that where people got disease was old scars that kind of flared up again rather than
Yes.
kind of new infections. Why would that be?
The pathogen will maintain itself within the dead material
Right.
in the scar. So the minute the weather conditions become conducive again, it flares up. And although you've protected the grass around it, it becomes really, really strong pathogen growth. And many of the fungicides can't cope with that really strong, high risk of the pathogen. So by managing that disease at just a slightly earlier stage, may have prevented an extra fungicide application and kept clean greens that would keep smoother and truer golf greens.
Yeah, no, I think we saw a lot of people that had a really good strategic preventative program were the ones that were really successful in keeping the greens clean all the way. They didn't have that constant kind of background noise of infection that as soon as we had maybe a day like today where it was slightly wet, slightly damp, but still quite warm, then immediately they were on the back foot again. And
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
just keep on the front foot, and it's probably the best way to go.
Yes, and in the long run, we have shown time and time again, you will use less fungicide.
I think there's loads of data to show that. I think we just maybe need to, kind of show that more, just to kind of really get people to understand that it is the best way, but also probably the cheapest way.
Yes, exactly. It's having that confidence to say, I know my golf greens and this is the right thing to do,
Yeah.
rather than wanting to see the disease first.